Some people are born into a world of illness, either their own or someone else's. They learn at an early age what it means to have struggle underpinning their lives. For me, it was a lot later, 29 years in fact. Before then, I'd never really thought about it. Sure, I'd had people in my life who'd been ill, but I'd never had any sort of untimely deaths or serious illnesses. So I was just a normal 29-year-old. I'd just moved to the UK a couple of years before, travelling, going to parties, festivals, having a great time. And then suddenly everything changed when I was told that I had cancer. It's osteosarcoma in my upper jaw, behind my nose. And all of a sudden I had to learn all about hospitals and blood tests and treatments and all of these things I'd never thought about. Of course, chemotherapy, and my hair started falling out. All these big new changes to my life. I'd gone from being this very well, happy, partying 29-year-old into being sick. I started blogging straight away. A lot of my friends and family are in Australia, that's where I grew up, so the blog was a really great tool to keep in contact with them, to keep them all updated on everything that was going on. So I'll come back to talking about the power of starting the blog and the things that came out of that in a minute. But I just wanted to start from the beginning, and obviously I was the epitome of, being on my own while this was all happening. Cancer in itself is very isolating, and in fact any sort of big illness is, especially chronic ones. Suddenly you've gone from being this happy, healthy, well person to having all of this stuff happening, and you just feel alone. Your friends don't really understand, your family don't understand. Great, they can be fantastically supportive, but they don't really get it. And, you get your diagnosis and suddenly it's straight to, the oncologist, you start your chemo, or go, and you feel very small and very alone. So I just wanted to talk about right from the beginning the power of connecting with people. For all the obviously horrible things about getting cancer or being ill, and I'm not saying that it's good at all, but the connections that you make with people are just so amazing and so deep. I mean, even from my first appointment, everyone knew my name. The receptionist, the oncologist, obviously, the pharmacist, the people in Ambicare where I was treated, they smiled, they were happy to see me. From my first day getting my treatment, I felt like I had been brought into a family. And they almost became my family, not in a really close way. Like, it's not like we were hanging out all the time and being best friends, but they just that feeling of kind of camaraderie, I guess, with them and with the other people being treated at the same time, and just having that, you feel just so much less alone. Almost to the point where I would sort of look forward to my weeks where I'd be having treatment, because I know I'd be going back and seeing friends. Which, not looking forward to it, but you get where I'm coming from. And on top of that, also the connections that we make with people online. It's not for everyone, I get that, and I know that social media can get quite a bad rap in general for not being very good, but for me, what I've experienced from the cancer community online has just been incredible. I kind of came at this through the blog, so I've been writing about it, and then I had an Instagram and Twitter on top of that to keep in contact with people, to keep talking to people. And to be fair, as I was undergoing my treatment, I was so focused on my treatment and what was going on in the here and now, I didn't use the social media aspect so much. But when I went in for surgery, which was very extensive, as you can see I have no teeth, they took out my jaw, and I should be getting teeth soon, fingers crossed. But a pretty big surgery that was very impactful on my life, and I couldn't do much. So I was there on Twitter and on Instagram, and people were, caring, wanting to know how I was going, checking in on me. My parents were over at the same time, which was great. Fantastic that they were able to fly over kind of last minute to basically look after me for 2 months after surgery, which I needed. Couldn't do anything, couldn't eat or anyway. But just having all those people there who really did care and really wanted to know what I was up to, how I was going. If I had any sort of fears or concerns, they would be right there going through it with me. Just absolutely incredible. So I think, obviously, when you go through something like this, cancer, I'll go with cancer because obviously, talk about what you know. Support is one thing. Really, you need support. You need a good support base around you. Even if it's just someone to help out. If you need someone to go to an appointment with you. I had some great friends who were happy to come along and help out whenever I needed. I'm very grateful too. So support is obviously really important. That's one thing. But on a deeper level, connecting with people is really, it gets you through. I feel so lucky, so grateful to everyone I have come across, pretty much. All of the healthcare professionals I've had, it feels like they care. And when they're dealing with you, it feels like you are their only concern. You were the only person in the world for them. Even though they're rushing around to someone else, but they're remembering your name, they're coming to see you, they're doing all this for you. I know it's not always like this. I know, for all the things we say about the NHS, people are stressed and overstaffed and all of these things, and times are hard. And of course, you're always going to get, in any profession, you're going to get people who just aren't that great or are having a bad day. But I didn't come across it much, which is great. But I think it just goes to show how important it is through all this to have people who do remember your name, who do smile at you, who do ask you how you are, ask you how your day is, chat with you. And it just makes a world of difference. I don't know if my nurses and doctors really understood how important that was. I mean, I told them. I wrote them about them in the blog about how much I loved them, and then told them about it so they could go and read it. But I think it must, people go into this profession and they want to help people, and they get so stressed and overworked and hard things happen, and I think it can possibly be hard sometimes to remember what a difference you're making to people. These are the worst days of our lives, and just to have a smiling face there, someone who cares, having that connection with someone, it makes all the difference. So on that side, yeah, having that connection is really important. But coming back to the social media connections one more time, people find it really hard in general to talk about illness, death, and if you haven't experienced it, people just can't do it. For so long, we kept cancer like a secret. It was sort of a shame, and you go and get your treatment, and then you come back, and then you're all better, and then it's fine, we'll talk about it again. I'm obviously not like that. I tell everyone everything. I'm the most open book in the world. I will answer any questions anyone has, and I love doing it. But it's kind of been a thing for a long time to not talk about illness. We could get into a whole string of things there about, people not talking about mental illness as well, but I'm not going to open that can of worms. But yeah, I obviously couldn't hide mine, and I wouldn't have wanted to. But I think when you've kind of had a brush with death, if you say, you need to come to terms with it, and people who haven't don't. And sometimes we need to talk about these things. it's a reality. I mean, 5-year survival rates aren't great for my type of cancer. They're not terrible. They're certainly not as bad as what some people are dealing with, but they're not a walk in the park. So I do need to think about, okay, so, you know, what happens when I die? Of course. There's nothing, I don't think there should be shame in that. And I think conversations around death are definitely things we should be having more. We're sort of denying people the right to have good end of life and to get things in order because no one wants to talk about things, which is terrible. But again, that's a whole other topic. But it is important for us people with cancer to be able to talk about these things with people. And really the only people that we can have these proper conversations with are other people who are in the same zone. So the Twitter community, basically, for me, they are my cancer people. They are the people who, I mean, I don't talk about death myself that much, but I do talk about the struggles I'm having with how I look, and other people will just say, you know, oh, why are you worrying about teeth? You don't need teeth. You should just be happy you're alive, which I am. My gosh, obviously, so happy I'm alive. Thank you. Thank you to all the surgeons and oncologists who made this happen. But, you know, it doesn't mean we don't have concerns. And really the only people we can talk about these sorts of concerns with are other cancer people. You know, it's possibly the hardest part of all of this is now, where I'm expected to just hop back into life, take up the life that I used to have as if nothing happened, just go back to who I was a year and a half ago. And in part I am who I was a year and a half ago. I haven't changed, but my perspective and my priorities and the things that I want to do really have. You finish cancer treatment and you're set off back into the world because you're all better. Now, it's not quite that simple. And you get it all the time from people who say, you know, oh, what do you mean you're too tired to do that? Aren't you better now? Like, the cancer's gone. It's quite hard to explain, but the cancer community obviously get it. And I can write something on Twitter about how I'm struggling with getting back into work and being full-time. And of course they'll all say, oh, me too, oh, this is the hardest part, in it together. So just having that keeps me sane. So this is a shout out to everyone who has ever replied to a tweet, who has ever checked in to see how I'm going, who has ever sent me a direct message just to say hi or anything, who has commented on an Instagram photo, who has followed me, who has listened to what I have to say, who has read a blog post, who has commented, who follows. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. You have kept me going. You're amazing, every single one of you.